Dear diary, so today I will talk about the Pear perfumes in my collection, or rather it will be perfumes that contain pear in my collection. Pear is it's a fruit that I'm very familiar with. Like it's kind of like a daily fruit after dinner kind of thing for me. For me, pear has a taste of like a sweet, but not too sweet. It's a very mouth-watering scent. It is sweet and it's fresh and it's full of water. Maybe that's why it contributes to the fresh and aquatic facets to fragrances. And so I have quite a number of fragrances which contain the note of pear in them, but today I will just talk about 5. And the first one, as you can see, I put it in the far corner there. This is Donna Aqua by Valentino. Yeah, this is for Donna Aqua by Valentino, and this is a 6 milliliters mini. Alright, let's just put on top. Okay, this Valentino Donna Aqua is a very hyped up fragrance, and people have been singing praises for it. But for me to get the full size bottle, because of the hype, I don't know what happened. The price for this is really quite high in Malaysia, so I decided to buy a mini instead of a full size bottle, and I praise myself. It's a really commendable decision. Well, this is a mixture of pear, almond, and frangipani. Okay, according to Fragrantica, the top note we have pear and almond, in the middle jasmine and frangipani, and the base is sandalwood. So, for me, to my nose, this fragrance is very screechy in the beginning. And the first time when I wore this, it almost gave me a headache, although this does not have a loud sillage, but yeah, it manages to give me headache if I just sniffed it off the spot that I sprayed it. And at the initial spray, the pear is muted down. I think it's not the watery, juicy pear. Yeah, I think maybe it's because of the almond note in here that has balanced out the watery juiciness of the pear note, which is quite unusual. Maybe it's unusual, but there is a certain amount of sweetness from the pear, and it's mixed together with the almond, but it is muted down. And as it dries down, all I get is this wonderful. It gets better as it dries down, actually, this fragrance. It begins very screechy on my skin, and it starts to get better as it dries down. As it dries down, it becomes more floral rather than fruity. It's more floral, as in like frangipani. Frangipani is a very exotic. It is almost juicy to my nose, as if it is a very plush, like juicy flower that I could suck on. It gives me the sensation like that. It's yellow in color. So imagine the scent that has a yellow hue to it. It is something like a mixture of. A very sweet yellow candy mixed together with the ginger. Yes, and then there's no ginger listed here, but I don't know, maybe my nose is broken or what. But there is, I think the spiciness, the more flavorful facet of this fragrance is really contributed by the frangipani, and it's not really the pear now. So I wouldn't say that the pear is the center of this fragrance, but it definitely sweeten up things a little bit, other than the almondy note. The almond really makes the whole thing. If the almond is not here, I think the whole fragrance would be a little bit more sweeter. And now with the almond, it's toned down a bit. The the moist, the juiciness of the fragrance. It's just toned down one level. So enough talking about this one, and I shall move on to the second one. I actually have 5 fragrances, so that is the 5th, and I will now talk about the 4th fragrance that have the note of pear in my fragrance, and which is what I like, and that would be Tender Romance. Before this, I just used up the vial and I have to get a bottle, and this is Tender Romance. Okay, this Tender Romance is a tester bottle. That's why the cap is not the square cap that I can always see online on the online store. So this Tender Romance is actually the sweetest of all the pear fragrances here. This features the note of pear right in the center. This has more pear than the Donna Aqua, I would say. The pear in here is so sweet that when I first wore it, I almost had a headache too. I don't know why. Pear seem to, if there's a huge dose of pear in the beginning, it will almost give me a headache. I noticed that is the trend that I get, from pear. So Tender Romance. Pear is the center of the stage. It is here in the center for a really long time. It doesn't dries down. So together with the pear, what I get is, I do get the benzoin note. It's a pear and benzoin scent. It's a very prominent benzoin scent together with the pear. And as it dries down, I don't think the flowers really outshines in here. It's really featuring the juiciness, the sweet, juicy, mouth-watering facets of pear in here, and it is added with a little bit of milky lactonic quality added by the benzoin. And as it dries down, I like the base so much. It's the cashmere wood and the benzoin and the musk. So other than the benzoin that adds some creamy, milky undertone to this fragrance, I think it's a very smooth fragrance as it dries down. It becomes another level as the fragrance dries down. As it first starts, it is very bright and juvenile, almost juvenile, very youthful, very sweet. But as it dries down, the elegance just shoots up, the elegance just shines. I think most likely it's because of the cashmere wood. And I do get some musk. It's not really a lot of musk, but yeah, the musk is present in here, but it's a sweet musk added by the benzoin, the pear, and the smoothness of this cashmere wood. It's very, very, very enjoyable. But it has to be dried down, and nonetheless to be enjoyable. So this is Tender Romance. I hope I can, use it more. And then, so this is the 4th one in my collection. So the third one in my collection will be this one. This is Montale Wild Pears by Montale. Okay, Montale. Montale is a Paris niche house, and when I first saw it, I have to grab it. I know I like the note of pear, and I can't wait to try the pear that is made by them. So this is, I would say this is quite a mature pear. I would say it's not overly sweet, but it's in the center. The pear is in the center. In the beginning, I do get that sensation of something like imagine the pear, you squash it up, and then you put some ice. It's a very cold pear in this fragrance, I feel. It's not a warm fragrance, and you squash it up, and you add some ice, you add some cold water, and then you keep it in the fridge, in the refrigerator, and you add some sugar, and imagine that thing just crystallized and become a solid pear candy. Okay, something like a something like a pear what do you call that? Ice blended pear. Yeah. It's actually not as sweet as I made it, as it sound, you know. It's actually not as sweet. This pear is comparatively non-sweet. If we are comparing to Tender Romance. Tender Romance is very sweet, while Pear is actually not that sweet. Okay, so as it dries down some more, I think the flowers here will appear. And then the flower here that I think matches very well and quite unexpected is the carnation. Pear and carnation, imagine the combination. Pear is very sweet, but carnation seems to have this depth and spiciness, some kind of spiciness and depth to it. And normally carnation doesn't appear in all these, you know, youthful fragrances. It's like a more matured note. But this is mixed together, making it very, very good. I mean, the combination of pear and carnation is just not so common, right? Oh, I like it. I like it. And then this fragrance actually develops. Although the pear is still in the center of the show, you have to like pear to like this fragrance. It develops. It's mixed together with the carnation in the middle stage, and as it dries down, it becomes more like there is more like a woody undertone to it. Yes, there's a more like a woody undertone to it, and that is contributed by the note of sandalwood. And not to forget, the vanilla is in here, and the vanilla and the carnation just balance out the sweetness and the spiciness of these two flowers, and together with the sandalwood just make the whole fruity, peary fragrance very solid and very, what do you call that? It's not a very airy kind of fragrance, but it's cold in the beginning. It's like a cold temperature fragrance in the beginning. It's icy cold, almost icy cold, and as it dries down it becomes warm. Yeah, as it dries down this turns quite warm. Yeah, but the sillage is not that overpowering, I think, as compared to Tender Romance. Tender Romance really dominates everything, you know, when I spray everything together. But Wild Pear is really, really enjoyable. It has the medium sillage that I enjoy. And the second one. Now, this fifth, fourth, third, now we are coming to the second place, is the second one that I have in my collection would be Jean Paul Gaultier La Belle. So I can already smell it from here, the sweetness and the nuttiness from this fragrance. According to Fragrantica, the note actually only has, there are only 3 notes in this fragrance. Believe it or not, there are pear, vetiver, and also vanilla. On me, I can smell a very nutty pear. Yes, it's a very nutty pear to me. I don't know why. And the pear is quite... it has a depth. It's like a peach lower than a Tender Romance. Tender Romance is a very high peach pear, but this is a very, you know, kind of very alluring lower peach pear, and it's mixed together with this vetiver, which I don't know why just smell like nuts to me. Yeah, I don't know what kind of nuts. It just smells a little bit woody. Yes, the woodiness is very apparent in this fragrance, and it's mixed together with the vanilla. I would say that the woodiness actually outshines the vanilla element in here, and the pear is always here in the beginning, from the beginning until the end. This is also a pear scented fragrance, which is not too sickeningly sweet, I would say. I even wear it in the heat. I wore it yesterday in the heat, and it was very okay. And then I think in the heat it actually smelled better, because I think the woodiness and the nuttiness, almost aromatic experience that I enjoyed, that I had from this fragrance, I think that comes. What did I want to say? Okay, let me rephrase myself. I think in the heat, I could really experience the nuttiness more, and the nuttiness make the whole thing, but the whole fragrance rather aromatic. It's juicy and aromatic at the same time. It has a very dry texture. It is not like a sugary sweetness. Yes, it's not a sugary mess. It's very enjoyable. So the number one fragrance, the number one Pear fragrance in my collection is also the most it's also the most affordable one, I would say, and that is